debate tonight is this enough to convince Nigel Farage to join or possibly even rejoin the Tory party? Well, I'm delighted to say that the great man joins me now. Now, Nigel.
Jacob. Well, look, it's interesting, isn't it? Because, David Cameron, as leader of the Conservative Party, described me and UKIP when we were fruitcakes, loonies, closet racists, and Theresa May couldn't even bear to sort of hear the letters UKIP, let alone the surname Farage. So, actually, I thought the response that Rishi Sunak gave to Chris Hope did show a change of thinking. That's probably because Sunak realises that the overwhelming majority of people who paid good money to go to Manchester actually would agree with many of the things that I've campaigned on for all these long years. I also think, and I picked up at the conference, a fear of Richard Tyson reform, and it's Richard's conference this weekend, and I will go along and show support, because they are going to put candidates up. I think he will announce this on Saturday.
Right.
So there's also a bit of that going on as well. I mean, look, I think you're right. I think what he did on the net zero policies a few weeks ago was a good thing. He hasn't got rid of any of this.
So you've got to go further on that.
He's just kicked it into the long grass. And that's a slight improvement. I thought the HS2 decision was the right decision. I've always thought, why would you spend over 100 billion just to make London easier to get to? Because, frankly...
That was what it did.
Well,
yes.
And that's what the TGV did in France. It just made Paris bigger and stronger and more firms relocated there. And I'd love to think that 36 billion would get spent well and wisely and quickly in the other parts of the country, connecting up the northern towns and cities. So I agreed with that. But there were two things about today. One, I think he's a very decent bloke. Probably a very good accountant. But he's not an inspiring leader. I don't sense that potential Tory voters have watched the news or the debates tonight and they're going, "Ugh, he's our man." And it's what he didn't talk about that I thought was extraordinary. No mention of legal migration. No mention of the fact that when we get the figures in a couple of weeks' time, it's going to be over 1 million people for the last 2 years who've legally, net,
yes.
Gross, it'll be nearer 2 million, have legally settled in the UK. And when it came to stop the boats, frankly, that was pathetic. I was looking for 4 letters for the last 2 days, with Suella's speech, today with Rishi's, ECHR. If ever there was an issue that would genuinely complete the Brexit project, regain our judicial sovereignty, but interestingly, drive a massive wedge between the Tories and Labour at the next election, it was that. Didn't hear a word.
But at the moment, he can't do anything about the ECHR, can he? Because you wouldn't get it through the House of Commons, let alone through the House of Lords. And therefore, withdrawing from the convention and from the court needs to be a manifesto commitment for the next election.
Yes, but now was the moment to say so. Now, ahead of the Labour conference next week, now was the moment to say so, and he didn't do it. In fact, he did the opposite. He said, we will continue.
And we will accept our international
obligations. This was his chance to say today, we are deeply unhappy with ECHR. We're going to go and speak to the Poles and the Slovaks and the Italians and others, and we will try to get some wholesale change.
Well, they tried that. Ken Clarke tried that a few years ago, not with great enthusiasm.
But getting back to your point of what's possible, he could say, that is what we're going to do. If we're unsuccessful, then wait for the next Conservative manifesto.
OK, but let's turn this round. Isn't it your duty to come back to the Tory party? Because I know you don't like it, but we are in a two-party system. At the next election, either the Conservatives win or the Labour Party will win. The Conservative Party does 75% of what you actually like.
No.
And there's 25%.
Jacob, I'm really sorry.
And you're absolutely adored by the Conservative members. They flocked around you like bees to a honeypot. It was quite remarkable.
It was extraordinary.
It was like Boris being at the party conference. And you don't quite have the hair, but otherwise it was like Boris being at the party conference. Don't you owe it to the Conservative Party to come and give us a little bit of oomph and lend some of your charisma to Conservatism?
I just can't give my support at this moment in time to an organisation that has put the tax burden up to the highest in 71 years, that has today extended the nanny state through this ludicrous idea that, you're 26, you can't buy cigarettes, you're 27, you can, to a party that is... There was the hollowest line of that speech with a party of small business. Oh, no, you're not. Oh, no, you're not. You've put up corporation tax by 30% this year. IR35 stays in place, making life incredibly difficult for sole traders.
IR35 is a menace and should have been abolished years ago.
And frankly, the differences between the Conservative Party and the Labour Party at the next election are going to be pretty narrow. They are both big state social democrat
But they're
parties.
not. Starmer wants to follow EU rules on everything. He's completely committed to all our international obligations and wants to make them more onerous.
I'm sorry, Rishi Sunak today confirmed that you're also doing that, and you and I both know we should have deregulated away from EU rules far more.
Well, I tried to.
There you are.
I was going to get rid of all 4,000.
So there you are. You're now agreeing with me, you see, that actually the differences are not that great.
No, what I'm saying is that you agree with 75% of Tory policies and that your patriotic duty is to help the Tory party because you want Britain to be better governed and it would be a disaster to let Sir Keir in, and therefore you need to come along, join the party, join people who like you. You are popular with Conservatives.
I know that.
And help us get policy in the right direction.
I have a feeling, Jacob, that what has happened this week has given Richard Tyson reform quite an opportunity. And I think for the longer term, I think what needs to happen is I think this Conservative Party, this iteration of the Conservative Party needs to lose, needs to go into opposition and rethink exactly what it is and what it's for. And I think there is a potential for a realigning of the centre-right of British politics. But it's not going to happen with Jeremy Hunt as Chancellor. And it's not going to happen, I'm afraid, with a Remainer-led cabinet. And it's not going to happen with a good accountant and nice bloke as leader. We did a different kind of politics. And I think, one term of a Starmer government, they may be marginally worse than the Conservatives.
One of our best Prime Ministers in history was basically a good accountant in the form of Pitt the Younger. But that's an opportunity for another discussion. Basically, I think Nigel is a Tory of the highest kind, even if he's not formally a member of the Conservative Party. But we can discuss the difference on another occasion. Don't forget to let me know what you think. mailmog@gbnews.com.